Yes guys, welcome back to another Fantasy Football Fix YouTube video. My name is FPL Nacho, and in this video I'm going to reveal my Game Week 8 team. I'm currently on the plan of not wildcarding 2 free transfers, and right now I have double Man United midfield, so I have a lot of things that I need to change with my team. As well as that, I also will be discussing captaincy rotation in the coming weeks, and of course those Game Week 8 predicted points. So as always, if you can, please do consider dropping a like on the video, and of course subscribing to the channel. And without further ado, let's get into today's video. Okay, first up, I wanted to talk about the captaincy rotation going forward for premium players, because I think a lot of managers right now that are on wildcard maybe flirting between the idea of going without one of the main premiums in the game. And realistically, when we're paying really big money for assets, we want to make sure that they are actually viable captaincy options, because if you're going to pay 12 million for a player and you're not going to captain them in any game week, then we do need to ask ourselves the question whether there are actually options that should be part of our team. So the 4 players that I think are the premiums that everybody are looking at right now is going to include Haaland, who's currently 14.1 million, Mo Salah at 12.6 million, Saka, who I believe is now 8.6 million, and Son, who is now 9.4 million. And a quick reminder, Haaland is a forward while the other 3 are midfielders. So we have got here the predicted points for those 4 players over the next 5 game weeks. The ones in green are the ones that are the highest predicted points for that specific game week. So in game week 9, you can see as of right now, both Haaland and Salah are predicted to score the same amount of points at 7.4. Saka at 4.3 and Son at 5.1. So based on that alone, Haaland and Salah are the best captaincies for game week 9. When we move into game week 10, you can see Salah and Saka the best options with those great home fixtures. Son and Haaland at slightly less predicted points. But then when we move forward, game week 11, it comes back again to Haaland and Salah. Game week 12, Salah and Saka. And finally, game week 13, we have both Haaland and Son as the best 2 options. So straight away, we can see a common theme here that Mo Salah is a fantastic alternative captaincy to Haaland over the next 4 game weeks. And I totally understand why managers are wanting to jump in early on him. We have to remind ourselves, game week 8, the one that we're going into right now, I actually quite like away against Brighton. They played midweek with quite a strong Brighton team. With the injury to Estupinan, Salah versus Lamptey feels like a good matchup. So I really do like Mo Salah over these next few game weeks. When we actually look at captaincy options, I don't think Son necessarily is going to cover us as a captaincy option, especially if you are a manager and let's say you are going without Erling Haaland. I think Mo Salah is absolutely essential then for your FPL teams. Saka is one that I think could come into our sides, but for the next 2 game weeks, looking at the predicted points for this week and game week 9, I don't think Saka is essential for the teams until game week 10. And even then, I'd find it very difficult to captain Saka, knowing that in game week 10, Salah is arguably a better option. And in game week 12, I still think Salah is probably the preference against a Brentford team who are struggling right now versus Saka. So let me know your thoughts in the comments on the captaincy rotation. For me, if I was building a wildcard, I still think if I could squeeze Haaland, Salah and Son in, they have their place in the team. But looking at these predicted points, Haaland and Salah are still kings of the game, and rightly so are going to be rotational captaincy options all the way between now and game week 13. You could chuck in a rogue Son captaincy along the way, but I think Salah and Haaland rotate really well amongst themselves. You might have a bit of a headache come game week 11 with those fantastic fixtures of both of those, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. All of these are brilliant. So next up, let's move into my game week 8 team reveal, where I have quite a big headache that I need to decide on. Okay, so as I mentioned, let me set the picture right now going into game week 8. I had 2 free transfers available and a bit of money in the bank, but I did make an early transfer to my team, which I will discuss later on in this video. But I have a bit of an issue right now with my 2 Man United midfielders, so we need to discuss that situation when we come on to it. But first and foremost, the goalkeeper department. Now, I am a manager that currently has a wild card available, and my goalkeepers are definitely one of the main problems in my team. However, I'm currently, as you probably guess, not planning on using my wildcard in game week 8. And with Pickford at home against Bournemouth, realistically, I thought last week was going to be my first clean sheet of the season at home against Luton. Lo and behold, they ended up conceding 2 somehow. So I have no expectation for Pickford to keep a clean sheet at home against Bournemouth. However, does that mean I should use a free transfer on him? Absolutely not. I'm just going to roll him out and hope that I at least accumulate 1 save point to go along those 2 points. And fingers crossed we get what is probably classed now as a 3-point haul, the way my goalkeeper scoring has been going. So next up, moving into the defenders, you can see the first transfer that got locked in place was Cash. I ended up selling Ruben Diaz to Cash on the Sunday night when I saw Matty Cash was likely to rise in price. He was one of the few players that at the start of the week I looked at and thought, oh, he could easily go up by 0.2 million come game week 8 deadline. And he was a player that I definitely wanted into my team, regardless whether I wildcarded or not. Because long term, he ticks a lot of boxes. And when I had Ruben Diaz on my side, I looked at him and thought, that is a player that I don't really want to have. His ceiling is quite low. Yes, he plays for Man City, but the fixtures aren't amazing. So it felt right to free up some funds in the team and allocate that to Cash. Trippier and Udogie, perfectly fine for this game week, although I probably would expect Newcastle to concede against what is looking like a very good West Ham team so far. So defence, I'm more than happy with. And I will touch on the bench in a minute because I do own a very highly owned defender that is now injured in the game. But moving into my midfield, so it's worth noting, you can see Son in the team there who currently is transferred into the side. I haven't actually pulled the trigger on that move yet, and the reason being is I want to wait until the Friday press conferences to get an understanding on the status of Bukayo Saka. So currently I own Saka in the team, so imagine Son is Saka, so Fernandes and Rashford as my Man United double up. I cannot believe I still own them. Saka, Mbeumo and Maddison. So my current deliberation is this. Mbeumo is not very good away against Man United, but I'm happy to keep him because he is on penalties. Maddison looks great. The big question mark I have is, do I sell Rashford or Saka for Son? I don't want to wildcard this game week. I've lost too much value in players and I don't really think it's the right time to do so for my side. So Fernandes is definitely going to stay in my team and just pray Man United get a fluky penalty that he converts. So Rashford versus Saka is the real debate. Now, based on form, it's a no-brainer. I sell Rashford and I bring in Son and I keep Saka for the home game against Man City. But as I mentioned, Saka is an injury doubt going into the weekend. I'm really hoping we get some sort of clarification between now and the deadline, because if we do get news that Saka is fit for game week 8, then I will happily sell Rashford for Son. I know the fixture is better for Rashford, but right now, Man United and Rashford in particular is an incredibly hard thing to predict. And I think having just one Man United midfielder is enough in itself. So right now, the plan is, if Saka's ruled out, I go Saka to Son and I grin and bear having Rashford for another game week. If Saka is confirmed fit, then I will change what you see on your screens. I will keep Saka and I will sell Marcus Rashford for Son. I currently have the vice captaincy of Son. I will touch on that in a minute because obviously I need to reveal who my current captain is. So moving into the forwards, yes, I do not have Ollie Watkins and it feels a little bit scary going without him, but I am very conscious that he is overperforming based on his underlying numbers and he isn't always going to score hat-tricks like he did in the previous week. Before the hat-trick, we were all talking about how Watkins isn't really an FPL option because he's only ticking over with an assist or a goal each week. Now he gets a hat-trick, he's essential. So I'm not letting short-term information completely dictate my transfer strategy. I'm more than happy to keep Alvarez for this game week. And then in game week 9, they have a great home game against Brighton. Now, Haaland currently has the captaincy in my team, but it's worth noting, I did have it on the preference that Son wasn't going to be available for this game week. If we do get confirmation that Son is ready to go for the game away against Luton, I will change it and put the captaincy on Son, as I do think that he is the better option, and we will come on to the predicted points in a minute. So I'm really happy with the starting 11 with the tweaks that I will make, and the bench is where there is a slight problem. I made that early move that I mentioned, Ruben Diaz to Matty Cash. I could have done a Stupinan to Matty Cash, but I didn't know that he was ruled out for up to a month. So that is an issue. However, I'm just going to go in and bear it right now over the international break, get a bit of an understanding what to do with a Stupinan. Maybe I do sell him, but if he's only out for one more game, game week 10 onwards looks brilliant for Brighton, so maybe holding on to a Stupinan is the right move. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. I know I'm crazy for having Man United midfielders, but if they can deliver this week, I am expecting a green arrow. So last up, I want to touch on the Game Week 9 predicted points. So this is one of my favourite parts because it gives us a bit of an understanding of which players in each position are the ones that you want to target. And especially if you're on a free hit this week, which I know is probably not many of you, this is absolutely essential reading. And also I do think for wildcarders as well, because some people do like going for a 1 week punt and then jumping off to another asset. So in terms of the goalkeepers, Leno is a standout option this game week with 5.4 predicted points. And Sanchez at Chelsea as well. I don't really think he's a good buy because long-term Chelsea fixtures are really tough and maybe the clean sheets are going to be few and far between. But for this game week in isolation, he looks very good. Flecken, I wouldn't really be confident to buy right now. There could be rotation with a lot of fans thinking that he is going to lose his place later down the line. Moving into defenders, we have a few Fulham players with Ream and Robertson and Diop. Am I going to really encourage you to buy Fulham defenders? Probably not. But it is worth noting that the likes of Castagne might be a bit of a differential with him actually offering attacking potential in that Fulham side. Outside of that, Udogie is the only real standout popular pick at 4.2 predicted points. But what I will add is that Pedro Porro probably would be my preference if budget is no problem for your team. He has slightly better underlying stats, and I do expect him to have a better chance of scoring rather than Udogie this game week. Now, moving into the big ones, midfielders, Son is currently on par with Haaland for predicted points with 6. And again, it justifies the fact that maybe going for Son as captaincy this game week is the right option. We need to remind ourselves, 1 more point for a goal, 1 more point for a clean sheet in terms of midfielders. The only problem with Son, coming off slightly early in games, we know he is carrying a slight knock, so maybe just be cautious of that. Maybe we get more minutes from Haaland in a tougher fixture, but Son is probably worth the punt, even though he is an early substitute. Maddison at 5.1, but the one that I really do like is Mo Salah. 5 predicted points, but I really think Salah's ceiling is high this week. Brighton playing on Thursday night, a lot of injuries to the team, in particular the player that Salah would have gone directly up against in Estupiñán. Tariq Lamptey playing 90 minutes in that Europa League. We know he's made of glass, so I would expect Salah to have a bit of joy down that right flank. So I really like Salah if you want to go for a slight different captaincy option. And Richarlison as well at 4.2 predicted points. The injury to a Solomon, Perisic long-term and Brennan Johnson means a short-term punt of Richarlison doesn't look like a bad bet. I just don't like him long-term. And last up, the forwards. As I mentioned, Haaland already. Watkins looking good this week at 4.9 predicted points. If you're wildcarding right now, very difficult to ignore. And Darwin Núñez as well. If you could be tempted to go there, I think his ceiling is massive because he's the only forward in the game that can really match Erling Haaland's underlying numbers. So those are the Game Week 8 predicted points. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And that is going to wrap up today's video. I really hope it has provided some value. As always, if you have any questions, please do fire them in the comment section. Have a great game week and I'll see you in the next one. Take care. Cheers.